Good afternoon. One of the subscribers, Larry, wanted to know how I connected these EG4 MPPT charge controllers up to the 6 kilowatt Growatt low frequency off-grid inverter. It's really easy. What I did was I put an Anderson cable on a 2 AWG wire on one end, and then I connected with both breakers on the side here off. I connected the negative and the positive on the battery first. Nothing's on. Then I have a DC or an AC disconnect outside connected to my solar panel array, and I pulled the fuse pole out of that, and there was no voltage or amps coming in on this 10 gauge wire is what they recommend. And I connected the negative and the positive. Then I went back outside and put the fuse back in and completed the circuit. Now, you can run this with or without solar connected to the inverter, because although this is 5,000 volt DC PV input, it's 100 amp output, and it's also 5,500 watt. So I could have 11 250 watt solar panels in series, another 11 250 watt solar panels in series, parallel those together, and then just bring these two wires in from those 22 panels, and that would be 5,500 watts. Now, you need to do it in strings of series because you have to keep the DC amps. They say around 18 amps. You can go as high as 22, but they say that you should stay below 18 DC amps input coming in. That's why you can use a 10 gauge wire for your PV, because you're such a low amps, but you're high on your volts from your PV. So it's really easy. I would suggest, I used 2 AWG wire for the cables for the battery, and they were really hard to get in there. It took a long time to get them in there. 3, they suggest that you could use 3 AWG or 2 AWG. And just for the fact that it would be easier, you might want to try a 3. All the instructions here, they give you a user manual. And right there you can see it's for a 48 volt system. So you can't use this on 24 volt or on a 12 volt. It's got to be a 48 volt system. And we actually have AGM batteries connected to this. We have 4 in series, 1, 2, 3, 4 in series on that positive and negative. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the negative positive there. And then those are put together back there, connected in parallel, and they're run here. And I connect them with an Anderson 175 amp cable here. Now, what I did on all of my inverters was I put 2 Anderson 175 quick disconnect cables on each one of these. So I've got one right here for this inverter and the other one right here for this inverter. Right here I have one for this inverter right here, and then the second one is connected right down there. So same thing over here. I have my second one right here, and then the other one's connected right there. And we have, on this other inverter, I have 2 positives, 2 negatives, same thing. So the reason why I did that is I'm going to show you how easy this is. So we already have the battery connected, the AGMs over here connected to this battery. So we're going to turn this inverter on and turn the power on. And then the one thing I like to do is I like to go in here and make sure my settings for these AGMs are set at 54. So they're at 56 on the bulk charge, and then the float charge, this one should be 56. Let's change that real quick. Okay, 56, and there's the 54. We got one more. The equalize, we don't need to worry about that. So we've got it set up where it's 56 on the bulk charge and 54 volts on the float charge. Now we'll plug this in. Here's the cable for it. So we're going to go ahead and plug this in right here on this other one. So this always gets connected to the battery, these charge controllers. There we go. I just connected that from right there for the negative and positive. Right here. So you got right there, and it goes up into here. So this is connected. Now I'll turn the battery on, and you're going to have to turn the PV on in order to get this thing to wake up and commission. So we'll turn the PV on, and you'll see that it'll start up. Okay, it's going to tell you it's 51.4 volts right now, and this over here is 50.9. So this is reading a little higher. Okay, so we have 345 volts coming in from our solar panels, and now it's starting to charge at 56.4 volts. We're going to drop that down to 56, like I said. So we're going to press the enter button here, and we're going to go down. Oops, sorry. We got to get it on there, and it's flashing on setting 1, so we're going to hit the enter button, and then, oh, that's going up. So we need to go down and put it on 56 on here, and then we're going to, now number 1's flashing, so we can go to number 2, and it's on 54 already. So we can just hit escape, and so we're at 345 volts. If you press the up or down button, it'll transfer. So we have 172 watts coming in, and we have we got 0.5 amps coming in off the panel, and we're charging at 2.8 amps right now. So if we go over here, we look, this was at 50.9 a few minutes ago. Now we are charging this at 55.5 volts. And you'll see that we have the input is 0 volts, 0 hertz, 0 volts, 0 amps, and 0 watts coming in. And if we go down here, our load is 1.6%. Oops, drop down to 0.8. I'm kind of going back and forth there. And we only have a load of basically 0 watts. So that's because we have no solar coming in. We are running this off of the battery bank down there, and we're using the solar input on here. On here, I don't have that many panels connect. There's 10 panels connected just on one string. I don't have 2 strings on this, and I only have one set because the sun's not hitting it fully. So right now I'm not pulling a lot. So what I can do is see it drop back. Oops. So it's still charging my thing at 55.4 volts, even with that little bit on here. So what I can do is I can show you something here real quick. So I have 2 of these going. This one right here is connected to this inverter. And I really don't need it right now because I'm at 13.2, 14.4, 13.2, and 13.2 on these 12 volt batteries in series for a 48 volt system. So that's charging fine. So we can turn this off. Now this one is the one right here. We're turning this off. This is for this inverter. So once that's turned off, we can disconnect the plug here. Take this plug. Now we're going to turn this one off right here that is connected to the 6 kilowatt. And we have the connection coming down here, right here. And we're going to take, and we just disconnected that. So that one right there is now hanging down here. We're going to connect this one right here to this. See, we dropped down to 52.6 volts charging right now. And oops, a real tight connection on these, so you kind of need two hands. Okay, so we have that connected, and that's going right here to this bottom one now. So we had that turned off. We're going to turn on the battery, and then we're going to turn on our PV breaker, and this will come on. And if we switch over to our watts, we'll see we'll have a lot more watts coming in as soon as this goes up there. There we go, 100, 280, 335, 400. Okay, so it's gonna hang right there. It's saying that the batteries are pretty much charged already, and it's only going to charge at 3.5 volts going into the batteries, but it's only limiting 0.7, I'm sorry, that's 2.8 amps, DC amps, and this is 0.7 amps coming in from the solar panels right here. So this is actually the amps going into the battery. This is the amps coming out of the solar panels. But you have your voltage is at 282 volts. Now, this is, see if I can get in there and show you. This is 150 volts right there, DC input. And this is 282 volts. But see, this takes the voltage, the high voltage, and drops it down to the 48 volt system, and it brings it in, and it's charging it at 54.5 volts. So it's pretty much float charging right now. It's the batteries are charged and doesn't really need to go up to 56 volts at all. So it's kind of just hanging at a float charge right now. And it's really easy, but what I do is I'll turn these off at night. I don't like to leave them on. They make, when the sun's going down and the voltage drops below 120 volts here, it'll start giving you an error message, because it's got to be between 120 volts and I think 460 volts is the sweet spot for that. So you can go up to 500 volts on here, right there, but they like to keep it below 460, I think it is. So if we take and toggle through here, we got 140, 169 amp or watts. So we got 0.5 and 2.1 amps on 2.1 amps charging the battery, 0.5 coming in off the solar panels. And we are 283 volts coming in off those solar panels. So it's real easy. Like I said, all of my inverters here have these Anderson quick disconnects, 2 sets. One goes to my battery. So like this one right here is connected to this server rack battery. And that is actually just running. There's no solar coming in at all. I'm not charging it. I'm just running it off the battery right there. And it's at a 96% state of charge. I'm running this freezer and that freezer right over there. The fan's on. And it I can put this on for a half hour before it gets dark and it'll charge right back up. So, because it'll charge real quick. So on this one, so we're hanging right there. Now I'll show you what I did with my solar panels out here. Let's go outside in the backyard and show you what we did with how we wired those solar panels up. And we actually have the solar panels. We have 16 of them connected right now to that charge controller that we're using. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have a second set of 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we did was we started with this solar panel right here. It's the second one in the middle here. So we go out of this solar panel right here, connect it into this solar panel. Out of this solar panel, come over here, and we go into this solar panel right here. Take and come out of there. We go into here, out of there. We go into here, out of here. We go into here, out of there. We go over into here, out of there. We go into here, and out of here. We go right here, and that's our positive. And over here on that first panel we started with, this wire goes up, and that's our negative. See, the white wire is the negative, the red, well, it's pink now from being faded from the sun. This was out in the sun for a year or so. But so you got your positive and your negative. So we connected that to our branch circuit to parallel it right up here. Here's our red that came into the branch circuit, and then here's our white that came into this branch circuit right here. So we did the same thing with these panels up here. We have 8 panels. We have this wire, the negative wire, right here going into this solar panel. Then we got the positive coming out to the negative right here. Negative right here, I'm sorry. And then this positive goes, so we have that negative to positive, negative to positive, positive right here. Okay, this one goes over to right here, then it comes out of here, and it goes into this one, goes out of this one, comes over right there. So it goes right there, it comes out of there, comes over, comes into this one. This one goes over, and it comes in right here, comes in right there, goes out right here, and that actually goes to this right here, and this one comes over, and it connects right there to the positive. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's your connection. So your positive connects right here, and your negative connects on this first panel. So now we have the negatives from the 8 panels and the positives from the 8 panels, and they come in, and all we have is one positive wire and one negative wire running in this conduit right here. And we have the conduit coming down, running into this AC disconnect. So what I did was, when I went to go wire this up, I pulled this fuse out and I set it up on top here, and I wired up all my panels. I checked it with my DC meter to check the DC amps and voltage, making sure I was staying within my parameters. And then I went inside, wired my battery to the charge controller. Then I wired my PV wires into the charge controller. And then I came back out here and I put this in with my breakers off on that charge controller. And then I went back inside And actually, I'll just show you real quick. I ran my cable below ground there. This is flexible Berry conduit. So I ran it below the ground, came up over here, right here. It runs along here. It runs on there. Then it comes out over here, and we have one set of wires comes from that array on top of those two pergolas, and the other set is for the 6 panels up here. And both of those run through this conduit, which goes below the ground and is buried, and then runs back there and goes into the wall into the garage. So you can, I'm having no problem running 16 panels. I had 6 panels lined up in front of here in my first video, so I was able to do 11-11, but I really didn't need a full 11 to supplement that charge controller, the 12 kilowatt for my pool heater. 16 panels was enough to supplement it because I was able to charge my batteries and run the load doing 120 DC amps on the the 12 volt or 12 kilowatt charge controller. So I was able to bring in through 12 kilowatt of panels, poly panels. I was able to go in here, and on the setting right here on number 2, you can actually go in here and go to the setting right here, and you can go up to 180 amps input between running your loads and charging your battery. But I have it set at 120, and put that back. And with 120 in here, when I'm connected to this over here, I only need about 50 to 60 amps out of this to get me my 186 amps, 168 to 186 amps that I need to run that pool heater. But so anyways, those 2 wires that came off of those 16 panels on those 2 pergolas are right here. Oh, I'm sorry, they're down here. They're actually right into this one. And this one is a separate one that I have, but it's not going to be in full sun for another 2 or 3 weeks. So right around this time of the day, I can get a little bit of charge my battery up if it's not charged up. But these are pretty much 13.2, 14.4, 13.2, 13.2. So that's charged up. I don't need to run that. And this one over here, it's pretty much on the bulk charge. So the batteries are pretty much charged up full, and it's just a little bit over the bulk charge. So probably another hour, it'll drop down to about 54 volts. So pretty easy. Like I said, make sure your breakers are off when you go to install your battery cables, and make sure that your PV wires coming in from your solar panels are not connected to the panels. Either have a breaker, or like I did, a fuse pole on a AC disconnect, or something where you have no power coming in when you're connecting this. So it's on this one, on these, it's negative and positive for your battery terminals, and then negative and positive for your PV input. So very easy to do, just 4 connections. But like I said, I would probably try the 3 AWG on this, because I have 2 AWG, and it took me a while to get those wires in there to screw them down. And like I said, the other thing is, when I'm not using these, I turn these on after the sun's been up for about an hour, because the sun's still kind of low in the sky right now. But I'll turn these on, I'll charge the batteries up to about 3, 4, 5 o'clock, whatever if I need to still use it to supplement it, to charge it and run a load. And then I turn them off before the sun goes down on both of these. And like I said, it's really easy. I will leave this inverter on. If I want to switch this to a different one. I'll show you real quick. It's real easy. I leave my inverter on, but I turn my charge controller off. So that charge controller goes off. Now, that charge controller is right here, and it's connected. So there we go. We got that disconnected. So we can actually take that was that one. So we're gonna take and connect this one now. And all we have to do is plug that Anderson 175 amp in right there. That's going up there. And then turn your battery on, and then turn your PV on. And see, we're 52.5 over here. And as that thing fires up and the solar panels connect, that will start charging the battery. Give it a second. There we go. See, it's starting to charge the battery. So we're charging the battery. Remember, there's no solar coming in to this inverter right now. So I'll run these inverters with just this charge controller and no solar going into here if I want to. So now we're running this up here. We got 343 volts coming in on the solar panels. It's only needing 171 watts, and it's bringing in 0.5 on the solar panels, and it's charging at 2.1 right now, and that's keeping this at 55.4. So it's that easy to switch them over from that charge controller to this charge controller. Just turn them off, disconnect. I like these. I had them bolted before, and if I wanted to do something, I had to sit there and get the socket out and undo it. But even with running this beast over here and using that to supplement and running 168 to 186 DC amps to run that pool heater, electric pool heater, it's still doesn't really get hot or anything. These connections on here, the wires stay nice and cool. There's no problem at all. So I'm not really worried about these connections here. They seem to be really holding up great, and they're really tight connections. So I'm really happy with these Andersons. And I make these cables myself. When I ordered these batteries here from Battery Evo, they sent me like one of these right here where it connects to the positive and negatives. It's like an 18 or 24 inch, and they gave it to me free, but the rest of them I made them myself. Anyways, that's it. Just wanted to show you how to connect that charge controller to the 6 kilowatt. Hope you have a truly wonderful and extremely blessed day. See you in the next video.